Hi everyone, welcome back to Auditing Hacks. Just remember, if you haven't yet, push the subscribe button down there. Right there, push it. I just want to remind you that this broadcast is not sponsored in any way. I do want to point out, though, that I am wearing my Deloitte University t-shirt, but they didn't give it to me. I had to buy this one. Deloitte University is the training facility that Deloitte built to train their people, and I got to go to a training seminar there once, and I bought this t-shirt in the gift store. But it's okay because Deloitte University has all of these little snack rooms all throughout the facility where they feature snacks from different cities where Deloitte has an office, and the snacks are free. So I got them back in the snack rooms. All right, before we get going with this week's Auditing Hacks, it's time for a calculator check. The calculator that I'm using today is this one. It's the National Cash Register 80694. This is from late 40s, early 50s. It is what is called a full keyboard calculator because instead of having 10 keys, they have a row for the ones or the thousands and the ones and the cents and everything like that, and you add stuff by cranking this little crank here, and it's really heavy. So this is not exactly a pocket calculator, but nevertheless, it's the calculator I'm using today. Wow, okay. So, now let's get on to the auditing hacks of the week. Today's topic is property, plant, and equipment, and we'll be talking about ways to make auditing property, plant, and equipment easier and more effective. So here we go with the number one way, or I guess the first way, to make auditing property, plant, and equipment easier and more effective. Okay, yeah, I know. This is the second video in a row where I've advocated blowing something up, but hey, let's face it. How many problems can't be solved through the application of a little bit of high explosives? So, at any rate, if you blow it up, it's easy. You don't have to do anything with it. And I also know that the PCAOB says that blowing up things is not an appropriate auditing procedure. But hey, is the PCAOB sponsoring this video? Am I wearing a PCAOB t-shirt? I don't think so. So I think I can say whatever I want. But if you don't want to blow things up, I understand that. So let's go on to the number two thing that you can do to make auditing property, plant, and equipment more efficient and easy. And before we do this, remember that the things that you need to do in an audit are you need to gather the most reliable evidence that you can get in support of the management assertions. And the management assertion that is most relevant for property, plant, and equipment is existence. We want to make sure that the assets, the property, plant, and equipment on the books actually exist, and it's not some fictitious asset. Now, the best audit evidence that you can get about the existence of property, plant, and equipment is to go see it yourself as an auditor. You're not taking anybody else's opinion. You're not looking at Google Earth. You're going to see it yourself. So that is the best and most efficient way to get evidence about the existence of property, plant, and equipment. I want to tell you a story about one time when I did just that. When I was a young auditor, we audited the state of Delaware. And I was assigned to go around and tour the state of Delaware to examine the property, plant, and equipments that they had on their books, to make sure in particular that the buildings that they had were there. And so I went along with an internal auditor from the state of Delaware and spent about a week touring buildings in the state of Delaware. It was kind of fun, but one of the buildings that we went to was the maximum security Delaware State Prison. This one right here.
Now we're being told 3 to 5 correctional officers have been taken hostage, and as you mentioned, the inmates have control of a building, is what they're saying. You can see there are many buildings here. This is medium, minimum, and maximum security prisons, so there are several buildings. It remains unclear if the building they're surrounding right now is the one that we are talking about, if that's the one they have control of. This also has a death row. In fact, it is Delaware's largest death row. Executions are done on site.
Yeah, that's the actual prison that I went to, and yeah, that really happened, although it was several years after I went to it. But that notwithstanding, as I was going to that prison, I was a little bit worried that that sort of thing would happen, and I was hoping that I would have somebody to hide behind. But the internal auditor from the state of Delaware that I was with was a young woman who was a lot shorter than I was, and obviously a lot skinnier than I was, and so trying to hide behind her if something went down in the yard was going to be like this.
Too small. It can't cover enough of the body to be safe.
Fortunately, the assistant warden was with us, and he was a large guy, and he had a stick, and he looked, a baton, and he looked like he knew how to use it. So that made me feel a little bit better. But we toured the various buildings of the prison, and finally we got to the maximum security wing of the prison, and that was death row. And I don't know if they still do now, but they had the death penalty still in Delaware, and they still had the death penalty by hanging. And as a matter of fact, they had executed somebody by that method just the year before I had gotten there. So we got toward the death row. I saw the gallows, inspected that. That was very interesting. And we went into the death row building, which was like a prison inside a prison. It had fences around it. And as we went in, every fence that we went through, every door that we went through, we picked up another guard. And so then it was me and the internal auditor from Delaware and the assistant warden and a bunch of guards. And walking into the death row cells, we looked a little bit like this. So we got into the cell block in death row there, and the cells were these big, heavy steel doors with little windows in them. And I walked up to one of the doors, and I looked in the window, and there was an inmate sitting on the edge of his bed, and he saw my face in the window, and he jumped up and slammed his face against the window. And I went, So then the assistant warden says, would you like us to open up one of the cells so you can look around inside one of the cells? And I said, no, that's okay. I think I've seen enough here. I'm satisfied. So death row, very bad place. I wouldn't recommend that you go there, but I was doing my job. So that's an experience that I had, gaining the most reliable evidence that you can get. That's the auditor's own observation about the most relevant assertion for property, plant, and equipment, and that is existence. So that is this episode of Auditing Hacks. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Love you all. Mwah!